oh, ooh, ooh, ah, ooh, 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 ah. So,
So what are you working on?
well, Drea's written a book that she's publishing quite soon, and she wanted headshots of all the characters, and I've got sketches that she's approved, and I'm going to ink them.
Lovely. I cannot see that at all
About
in pencil.
that.
It's the quality is way too blurry. I literally can't
Oh,
see anything.
damn! I can see it. Yeah. Oh well, I will be inking. Maybe it'll show up with the ink happening, or maybe not because I'm using a thin pen.
We'll
Maybe
see.
I will be scribbling on a blank page. Anyway, where are we?
We are, I found it. We are where Morgoth and Ungoliant are arguing over the Silmarils.
That's right. You said with both hands.
You said with both hands. Can I be honest about something?
Hmm.
I don't really like anyone in this book.
Nope, we don't really have um, anyone to root for.
We do not. No, they're either idiots or they're evil, and I'm really not. I can't say that I'm enjoying it too much at this moment.
This is the part where I usually leave. I would be thrilled if we could truck along at least a while longer. If we finally decide that there's just no one worth liking in this book, we could skip to Beren and Luthien, which is what I always do. Read that and then pick a different book.
Fair
But
enough.
it'd be
Well,
nice
we
to have
can.
some of the in between stuff filled in, and yeah, but no, it's not even written like a narrative where you should have a protagonist. It's like, no, this is just
No.
history. This is just the shit that happened. People were dicks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is not, I like a protagonist. I
I
like to
do.
have somebody to root for, like a specific person, because if it's too many people, then you get Game of Thrones syndrome, and I don't like that either. So yeah,
No.
well, we can keep pushing for a little bit, but I was just like, I look forward to seeing you. I don't really look forward to reading this book.
Hang on, hang on.
But maybe
I'm,
we'll
I'm
get
gonna
better.
see if there's anything besides Beren and Luthien that I'm looking forward to. Because there was a long time. I mean, before we read it together, I never looked forward to reading Lord of the Rings because it was like, oh god, the plot exposition. Ow, ow, ow.
Look, at this point, I would like him to describe some trees. Well, I mean, I guess he did do that, but only two of them.
Only two. That's not enough. Let's see. The Flight of the Noldor. Heads up, everybody's an ass in that one.
Great, great.
Yeah. I haven't actually read a lot of these. I think of Maeglin I read, and I can't remember if that one's got a little more like someone to root for-ness. The Return of the Noldor. I remember the burning of the ships. I remember that vivid. I remember it like I watched it filmed. And I think we're coming up on that. By the way, I've been working on the cover of my book, and I've got a lot going on.
I also cannot see that, but
There's a woman with a chicken on her head. I needed her to be somewhere, and so she's on the cover.
Good, good, yes. I have applied for a plot at a community garden. I don't know if I told you this.
No, that's awesome.
I'm really excited, and they said there's spaces, so I'm gonna go in like a couple weeks to a meet and greet and hopefully apply and all that. But they also have a chicken coop in the community garden, so I'm like, I could garden and be around chickens. I'm very excited.
But not have to
And
like start fretting if it gets too cold or whatever, which is what I would do if I actually owned chickens. Like you just get to be chicken adjacent. That's awesome.
exactly, I just get to be in the vicinity of chickens and watch them do chicken stuff. Well, I want to grow native plants,
Nice.
so that's my yeah. I
I
found a
would
place where you
dearly
can
love
get Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I would dearly love to grow food on my own property. I've got plenty of space, but the squirrels have a long
Mm,
history of shredding or eating everything that I tried to plant. And when I put a cage
that is,
over it, the plants try to grow on the cage and they get mad if I try to pull them off the cage. It's just hard.
hmm. I feel like, yeah, I wonder what you do about that because I feel like there must be something that is squirrel repellent that you can put around there.
Squirrels don't like capsaicin. I kept them from eating my tomatoes by sprinkling red chili powder, like cayenne powder, on the leaves. But you have to be
Hmm.
careful with that because the cayenne will damage the leaves. But then the squirrels stay away from the plant, and it's just like I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
They
know.
also hate mothballs, but I don't want to eat stuff that's been near mothballs.
No, I was thinking like you can get like, well, I don't know if you would want to be around this either, but you can get like predator pea and put it around,
Oh yeah, we've got
like
some of that.
powdered.
It doesn't work on squirrels. It works on
Doesn't
deer,
work. Well, damn squirrels.
right? Want to hear something really gross? So
Probably.
so Shippo, as you know, is a hunter, and what he does is he'll eat the front half of whatever he has killed, and then stop at about the intestines and goes, "Ew, I don't want this," and then leaves it in a specific spot in the yard. And the other day, I was out there like cleaning up and scooping, and there was what I thought was the back half of a bunny, because it's usually a bunny. We've got so many thousands of bunnies. I was like, "Oh wow, that bunny had really small feet and a long fleshy tail. That was a rat, a large, like the
Yikes.
back half of it was this big." So I was like, "Thank you, Shippo, for killing." And he nibbled away most of the tail. So like you could tell that it had been a long fleshy tail, but it wasn't anymore. Make sure I'm slurping it like a noodle.
Yep, that's what I was picturing too. Hmm.
Oh,
Oh, my.
yeah,
Well,
I hope it wasn't anyone's pet or something, because it looked like it had been very large and sleek. And then you're like, well, where are all the others? Because rats don't do the lone thing.
no, they do not.
But Shippo wanders very far, so he might have killed it way up on the hillside where there's rats of Nim situation going on, and he killed Nicodemus.
Maybe it was dangerous beans.
That's even worse.
I know. As soon as I said it, I was like, that's not better.
No, I can't remember who the villain was in Rats of Nim. I need
Well,
to
I was
read it.
thinking of Amazing Maurice.
Well, yeah, but there was no rat villain in Amazing Maurice.
No, there really wasn't. Well, there was the Rat King,
There you
but
go.
you
He
would
killed the
definitely
rat
know if
king.
he had killed a Rat King.
there would be there would be 8 little behinds all together.
Yep, in a circle, and then he would have eaten the tails out of the middle.
Oh, oh gosh. Yeah, if anyone ever finds this podcast, we'll get canceled for this. I once found, this was weeks ago, but I was doing the same, cleaning up the yard, and I saw something that I was like, "What is it?" It was a nose. It was a rabbit nose. The whiskers had been too much, so Shippo had eaten everything except the nose, and then just left it. And I was like, "You get kind of inured."
I mean, when you live with an obligate carnivore, you do have to get used to the idea of carnivory.
It's
Even
true.
Junie, who doesn't go outside, is extremely she craves violence at all times.
Yeah. And
Don't you?
and we tried keeping Shippo indoors like you're supposed to, and he just wasn't having it. He would escape when he was a kitten. We were like, well, and when he was young and lithe, he would hunt birds, and we hated that. That was crappy. but he hasn't hunted birds in years. He's an old man now. He just hunts the rodents and the rabbits. And I'm like, go for it, baby. Go for it. We got plenty. All right. So I'm muting so I can eat my dessert.
Okay, well, I will start reading about. So, when we were last here, we were talking, or Morgoth and Ungoliant were arguing because he had said that he would give her anything with both hands, and then she asked for the Silmarils, and he said, "No, you can't have those. I named them unto myself forever." But Ungoliant had grown great, and he less, by the power that had gone out of him. And she rose against him, and her cloud closed about him, and she enmeshed him in a web of clinging thongs to strangle him. I realize that's there's a evolution of language here, but all I can picture
Tong, 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 tong.
she's got bumps like a truck, legs like what? What?
What? Yep.
Then Morgoth sent forth a terrible cry. That echoed in the mountains. Therefore that region was called Lambeth, for the echoes of his voice dwelt there ever after, so that any who cried aloud in that land awoke them. And all the waste between the hills and the sea was filled with a clamor as of voices in anguish.
That is so metal. That is so fucking metal. Like, yeah. You know how we talk periodically about like how teenagers would dare each other to go to the hollow behind Dunharrow and the Stone of Iraq where no one ever goes, like they would totally get drunk and dare each other to touch it. I bet the place of the lamentation is a drunken teenager haunt. Like their version
Probably,
of
assuming there's anyone around, because they're like up in the Arctic.
Right. Well, then I'm picturing the go backs. Wrong elves, wrong universe.
Yeah. The cry of Morgoth in that hour was the greatest and most dreadful that was ever heard in the northern world. That's very specific. The northern world, not the southern world. There were greater and more dreadful cries there.
Like who? When?
I don't know.
What? Right? Maybe they'll tell us.
It's possible. The mountains shook, and the earth trembled, and rocks were driven asunder. Deep in forgotten places that cry was heard, far beneath the ruined halls of Angband, in vaults to which the Valar in the haste of their assault had not descended. Balrogs lurked still, awaiting ever the return of their lord. The Valar are so bad at this! And now swiftly they arose, and passing over Hithlum, they came to Lamoth as a tempest of fire. With their whips of flame they smote asunder the webs of Ungoliant, and she quailed, and turned to flight, belching black vapors to cover her. And fleeing from the north she went down into Beleriand, and dwelt beneath Ered Gorgoroth, in that dark valley that was after called Nan Dungortheb, the valley of dreadful death, because of the horror that she bred there. For other foul creatures,
Not to be confused with the Valley of Peaceful Death or the Valley of Scary Death. Just dreadful. Yeah.
Yep. This is definitely the dreadful death.
Oh, yeah.
If you want like a mildly hilarious death, you got to go to the next valley over.
Oh yeah. Oh shit! Wait till we get to those stories.
For other foul creatures of spider form had dwelt there since the days of the delving of Angband, and she mated with them and devoured them. God forbid women do anything. Sorry, I didn't. And even after Ungoliant herself departed, and went whither she would into the forgotten south of the world, her offspring abode there and wove their hideous webs. of the fate of Ungoliant no tale tells. Yet some have said that she ended long ago, when in her uttermost famine she devoured herself at last.
That is also a very metal image.
It is, although the immediate thing it makes me think of is that thing that's Ouroboros can have a little Ouroboros as a treat.
Just nibble. Just a little nibble.
Just a nibble. Also, a shirt that I frequently have thought about getting and probably will someday pull the trigger on. There's a t-shirt by a cartoonist I like it's an Ouroboros, and underneath it says, "Stop, look, think. Are you eating yourself?" And every time I start to feel really anxious about something, that is what I say. Stop, think. Are you eating yourself? Anyway, so Ungoliant probably ate herself. And thus the fear of Yavanna that the Silmarils would be swallowed up and fall into nothingness did not come to pass, but they remained in the power of Morgoth. And he, being freed, gathered again all his servants that he could find, and came to the ruins of Angband. There he delved anew his vast vaults and dungeons, and above their gates he reared the threefold peaks of Fangorodrim. A great reek of dark smoke was ever wreathed about them. There countless became the hosts of his beasts and his demons, and the race of the orcs, bred long before, grew and multiplied in the bowels of the earth. Dark now fell the shadow on Beleriand, as is told hereafter. But in Angband Morgoth forged for himself a great crown of iron, and he called himself king of the world. In token of this he set the Silmarils in his crown. His hands were burned black by the touch of those hallowed jewels, and black they remained ever after, nor was he ever free from the pain of the burning, and the anger of the pain. That crown he never took from his head, though its weight became a deadly weariness. Never but once only did he depart for a while secretly from his domain in the north. Seldom indeed did he leave the deep places of his fortress, but governed his armies from his northern throne. And once only also did he himself wield weapon while his realm lasted. For now, more than in the days of Utumno, ere his pride was humbled, his hatred devoured him, and in the domination of his servants and the inspiring of them with lust of evil, he spent his spirit. None the less his majesty as one of the Valar long remained, though turned to terror, and before his face all save the mightiest sank into a dark pit of fear. Now when it was known that
How
Morgoth
mighty are you? How mighty
probably
are
not
you?
that mighty.
Yeah. I'd be scared. I'd wet my pants.
Yeah. Even knowing that he's like super pathetic and he's like the Howard Hughes of Middle Earth. He's just a shut in. He never actually does any fighting. He just sits there being pissed off about his chronic pain, which is a mood, but like you got to get past that. Now, when it was known that Morgoth had escaped from Valinor and pursuit was unavailing, the Valar remained long seated in darkness in the Ring of Doom, and the Maiar and the Vanyar stood beside them and wept. But the Noldor, for the most part, returned to Tirion, and mourned for the darkening of their fair city. Through the dim ravine of the Kalakiria, frogs drifted in from the shadowy seas and mantled its towers, and the lamp of the Mindor. What?
You said frogs.
Sorry, fogs, not frogs. just everything was covered in frogs.
We've got some serious biblical plague shit going on right now. We've got darkness. We've got
frogs. No. Fogs. You know, like in the movie, The Fog.
Oh.
Then suddenly Feanor appeared in the city. Oh boy. And called on all to come to the high court of the king upon the summit of Tuna. But the doom of banishment that had been laid upon him was not yet lifted, and he rebelled against the Valar. A great multitude gathered swiftly, therefore, to hear what he would say. In the hill and all the streets and in the hill and all the stairs and streets that climbed upon it were lit with the light of many torches that each one bore in hand. Feanor was a master of words, and his tongue had great power over hearts when he would use it, if you know what I'm saying. Um, and that night he made a speech before the Noldor, which they ever remembered. Fierce and fell were his words, and filled with anger and pride. In hearing them, the Noldor were stirred to madness. His wrath and his hate were given most to Morgoth, and yet well nigh all that he said came from the very lies of Morgoth himself. But he was distraught with grief for the slaying of his father, and with anguish for the rape of the Silmarils. That's not what that word means, Tolkien. Theft. Theft is the word you're looking for. He claimed now the kingship of all the Noldor since Finlay was dead, and he scorned the decrees of the Valar. Why, O people of the Noldor, he cried, why should we longer serve the jealous Valar, who cannot keep us nor even their own realm secure from their enemy? And though he be now their foe, are not they and he of one kin? Vengeance calls me hence. But even were it otherwise, I would not dwell longer in the same land with the kin of my father's slayer and of the thief of my treasure. Yet I am not the only valiant in this valiant people. And have ye not all lost your king? And what else have ye not lost, cooped here in a narrow land between the mountains and the sea? Here once was light that the Valar begrudged to Middle-earth, but now dark levels all. Shall we mourn here deedless forever, a shadow folk, mist-haunting, dropping vain tears in the thankless sea? Or shall we return to our home? In Feananigans sweet ran the waters under unclouded stars, and wide lands lay about where a free people might walk. There they lie still and await us who in our folly forsook them. Come away. Let the cowards keep this city. I like where he's like, yeah, there was so much land where free people might walk. I'm like, did you forget the part where if you did, you got kidnapped and turned into orcs? Like, that was a thing.
Otherwise, there wouldn't be any orcs.
Indeed. That was a whole thing.
This is definitely a grass is always greener situation. Like, let's forget the bad thing about that other place because it's the other place I want to be.
Mm-hmm.
He has enough of a point though that I would totally be swayed. If I were Noldor, I'd be like, you know what? You're right. They should have protected us. They have all the power. They didn't use it. Fuck them.
I mean, yep, exactly. It's one of those, like, Magneto's right situations. Like, he's an asshole, but he's got a point. Yep. They did not do a good job.
Yeah, they didn't do a good job. And he's like Magneto in other ways too, because it's like, okay, I like your philosophy, but I don't like your methods. And you really are brilliant, so it's hard to argue with you. Also, you're psychotic. Yeah.
Also, you're psychotic. Yes.
Makes it even harder to argue. But yeah. I mean, at this point, the worst thing that's happened to them, aside from him with his jewels, yada yada, but the lights are out now.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't literally been attacked. They haven't been kidnapped and transformed. They've just been exposed to darkness.
But they were they were lured away from their home by the promise of the light, and then now the light's gone, and so he's like, let's just go back home now. And it's like
a bunch of people never came. They never came. Where are they? We want them back. Yeah, totally. I get it.
Yeah.
Damn it, Feanor, you have a point.
But you're still an asshole. Long he spoke, and ever he urged the Noldor to follow him, and by their own prowess to win freedom and great realms in the lands of the east before it was too late. Or he echoed the lies of Melkor that the Valar had cozened them, and would hold them captive so that men might rule in Middle-earth. Many of the Eldar heard then for the first time of the aftercomers. Fair shall the end be, he cried, Though long and hard shall be the road, say farewell to bondage, but say farewell also to ease. Say farewell to the weak, say farewell to your treasures. More still shall we make. Journey light, but bring with you your swords. For we will go further than Orome, or endure longer than Tulkas. We will never turn back from pursuit. After Morgoth to the ends of the earth, war shall he have, and hatred undying. But when we have conquered and have regained the Silmarils, then we and we alone shall be lords of the unsullied light.
So that's where he would lose me. Like, yeah, let's go, let's find our kid, let's get out of this narrow place, and let's what now? You want us as soldiers? We're soldiers now in your war for your
Yeah.
fucking jewels.
For your jewels.
Your jewels.
You want all of us.
And if we fought and died for you, and one of us ended up with one of the jewels, you would declare us an enemy because that's how your oath went. Like, no.
Yep.
No, I'm out. Oh, but I am not out of popcorn.
Let's see. When we have conquered and regained the Silmarils, then we and we alone shall be lords of the unsullied light. And by we he means him, and masters of the bliss and beauty of Arda. No other race shall oust us. Then Feanor swore a terrible oath. His 7 sons leapt straightway to his side and took the selfsame vow together, and red as blood shone their drawn swords in the glare of the torches. They swore an oath which none shall break, and none should take, by the name even of Iluvatar, calling the everlasting dark upon them if they kept it not. And Manwë they named in witness, and Varda in the hallowed mountain of Taniquetil, vowing to pursue with vengeance and hatred to the ends of the world Vala, demon, elf, or man as yet unborn, or any creature, great or small, good or evil, that time should bring forth until the end of days, whoso should hold or take or keep a Silmaril from their possession.
Sorry, I jumped the gun on the oath, but yeah. Yeah. No, that's insane. There's way, like, and it's almost lawyerly. Like, we are making 0 exceptions.
Yep.
And I'm like, there's got to be an exception, gang. You're nuts.
They're nuts.
They're nuts.
Thus spoke Maedhros and Maglor and Celegorm, Curufin and Caranthir, Amrod and Amrus, princes of the Noldor. And many quailed to hear the dread words. For so sworn, good or evil, an oath may not be broken, and it shall pursue oath-keeper and oath-breaker to the world's end. Fingolfin and Turgon his son therefore spoke against Feanor, and fierce words awoke, so that once again wrath came near to the edge of swords. But Finarfin spoke softly. Finarfin!
Finarfin! Team Finarfin! I'll make the t-shirt, I swear.
Finarfin spoke softly, as was his wont, and sought to calm the Noldor, persuading them to pause and ponder, ere deeds were done that could not be undone. And Orodreth, alone of his sons, spoke in like manner. Finrod was with Turgon, his friend, but Galadriel, the only woman of the Noldor to stand that day tall and valiant among the contending princes, was eager to be gone. No oaths she swore, but the words of Feanor concerning Middle-earth had kindled in her heart, for she yearned to see the wide unguarded lands, and to rule there a realm at her own will. Of like mind with Galadriel was Fingon, Fingolfin's son, being moved also by Feanor's words, though he loved him little. And with Fingon stood as they ever did, Angrod and Aegnor, son of Finarfin. Sons of Finarfin. Oh, so many freaking names. But these held their peace.
Stand with their uncle, brother, cousin?
Cousin. Okay. So we've got Galadriel, Fingon, and then Angrod and Aegnor, who all want to go, but they're not like being dicks about it.
Right, that's a really nice way to put it. They're just feeling it.
At length, after long debate, Feanor prevailed, and the greater part of the Noldor there assembled he set aflame with the desire of new things and strange countries. Therefore, when Finarfin spoke yet again for heed and delay, A great shout went up. "Nay, let us be gone!" And straightway Feanor and his sons began to prepare for the marching forth. Little foresight could there be for those who dared to take so dark a road. Yet all was done in overhaste, for Feanor drove them on, fearing lest in the cooling of their hearts his words should wane and other counsels yet prevail. And for all his proud words he did not forget the power of the Valar. But from Valmar no message came, and Manwë was silent. He would not yet either forbid or hinder Feanor's purpose, for the Valar were aggrieved that they were charged with evil intent to the Eldar, or that any were held captive by them against their will. Now they watched and waited. They did not yet believe that Feanor could hold the host of the Noldor to his will.
At this point, whatever the Valar are convinced of, I'm convinced of the opposite. It just saves time.
Honestly, yeah. I just need one of them to be the god of any sort of administrative skills, and this would have all gone differently. And indeed, when Feanor began the marshalling of the Noldor for their setting out, then at once dissension arose. For though he had brought the assembly in a mind to depart, by no means all were of a mind to take Feanor as king. Greater love was given to Fingolfin and his sons, because they're less dickish, and his household and the most part of his dwellers in Tirion refused to renounce him if he would go with them. And thus, at the last, as two divided hosts, the Noldor set forth upon their bitter road. Feanor and his following were in the van, but the greater host came behind under Fingolfin. And he marched against his wisdom, because Fingon his son so urged him, and because he would not be sundered from his people that were eager to go, nor leave them to the rash counsels of Feanor. Nor did he forget his words before the throne of Manwë. With Fingolfin went Finarfin also, and for like reasons, but most loath was he to depart. And of all the Noldor and Valinor, who were grown now to a great people, but one tithe refused to take the road, some for the love that they bore to the Valar, and to Aule not least, some for the love of Tirion and the many things that they have made, none for fear of peril by the way. But even as the trumpets sang and Feanor issued from the gates of Tirion, a messenger came at last from Manwë, saying, "Against the folly of Feanor shall be set my counsel only. Go not forth, for the hour is evil, and your road leads to sorrow that ye do not foresee. No aid will the Valar lend you in this quest, but neither will they hinder you. For this ye shall know, as ye came hither freely, freely shall ye depart. But thou, Feanor Finwë's son, by thine oath art exiled. The lies of Melkor thou shalt unlearn in bitterness. Vala he is, thou sayest. Then thou hast sworn in vain, for none of the Valar canst thou overcome now or ever within the halls of Ea, not though Eru, whom thou namest, had made thee thrice greater than thou art." Shade?
Right? Like,
But Feanor laughed and spoke not to the whole herald, but to the Noldor, saying, "So, then will this valiant people send forth the heir of their king alone into banishment with his sons only, and return to their bondage? But if any will come with me, I say to them, is sorrow foreboded to you? But in Aman we have seen it. In Aman we have come through bliss to woe. The other now we will try, through sorrow to find joy, or freedom at the least." Then turning to the herald, he cried, "Say this to Manwë Sulimo, High King of Arda. If Feanor cannot overthrow Morgoth, at least he delays not to assail him, and sits not idle in grief." Ah, he's got a point.
He's a dick, but he's got a point.
"And it may be that Eru has set in me a fire greater than thou knowest. He does not have a point about that. Such hurt at the least will I do to the foe of the Valar, that even the mighty in the Ring of Doom shall wonder to hear it. Yea, in the end they shall follow me. Farewell." In that hour the voice of Feanor grew so great and so potent that even the herald of the Valar bowed before him as one full answered, and departed, and the Noldor were overruled. Therefore they continued their march, and the house of Feanor hastened before them along the coasts of Elendë. Not once did they turn their eyes back to Tirion up on the green hill of Tuna. Slower and less eagerly came the host of Fingolfin after them. Of those Fingon was the foremost, but at the rear went Finarfin and Finrod and many of the noblest and wisest of the Noldor, and often they looked behind them to see their fair city, until the lamp of the Mindon Eldalieva was lost in the night. More than any others of the exiles, they carried thence memories of the bliss they had forsaken, and some even of the things they had made there they took with them, a solace and a burden on the road.
Good spot. The solacey burdens.
The solacey burdens.
So, yeah. He has a point.
He does, and it's a really great example actually of propaganda, because it's that like he has a point, but then he's extrapolating that point into this crazy premise,
right,
for his own ends.
Yeah, some serious social commentary going on, because this is how you get a mob on your side. But then, like, did they even notice that they had been conscripted into a war that they had no part in or investment in?
Right? Well, and he's like, oh, well, sorrow has come to us in Aman. It's like, it really hasn't. Sorrow has come to you.
You alone. Yeah. And it, yeah. Well, okay, they lost a king.
They did. Okay, that is true. They did lose a king.
But
they lost the king because of what Feanor did.
Yeah.
Because Feanor was a dick to his brother and got himself banished, and his dad went with him, and then his dad was there when Morgoth came for the Silmarils. Like, no part of this was the Valar's fault.
No. And they're dumb. They're dumb, but they're not malignant. And you, sir, are malignant and smart.
And that's a terrible combination. We hate to see it.
It's the worst. It's the worst. But we shall see more of it before we're done. I've never read the end of Feanor. I have no idea how he dies. I'm pretty sure he does.
I'm pretty sure, yeah. I feel like we would have heard about him later.
I think at least 2 of his sons forsake the oath. It might be only one. It might be one after the others have all come to a bad end, who's like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm out. And, you can forsake an oath, it turns out. You have to really mean it.
Well, we shall see.
We shall.
But yes, I will see you next week, and I'll keep you posted on timing, and I love you.
I love you too. Thanks for letting me vent earlier. That was needed. Mental health. Good stuff.
Mental health.
Cuidado.
Llamas.